Hey everyone, guess who's back? It's Kamish back here with another draft preview. This time we got Chris and original owner True North. Um, my guy that never made the playoffs last year, typically does. Has been an LOC champion before and currently sits tied in second with myself for the most career wins in history in the LOC with 81. There's only one team that's better than him and I, and we'll preview that team later on. So awesome to have Chris on board in the Wffl. The reality is this guy is a good fantasy owner. So he's a great addition to any league, and I'm happy that you joined the league 11 years back, Chris, and been able to compete and play with all the good owners here and be right near the top every year. So, anyways, I'm going to share my screen and we'll just get right into your preview here. All right, here we go, Chris, tier one. All right, so your current keepers right now. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. Your current keepers right now. Oh my goodness. Your current keepers right now are CD Lamb. I mean, he's electric, right? But there's been some off-season news, but that he's been unhappy. There's also been some off-season news that Dak has a foot injury, which I think could be cause for concern for you. Um, I don't think everything's all rosy in Dallas. I have a feeling that maybe Dak might be an issue, might not get the contract. Mike McCarthy gets fired. I see scenarios like that in Dallas. So if that happens, I think CD will still have a big year, just maybe not as big as he usually does. You also have Ramondre Stevenson here off your team, New England. And, I was questioning this one at first because they brought in Antonio Gibson, of course, into that running room. And you have to wonder why they brought him in. But then they signed Ramondre Stevenson to the long-term contract. So it's like, okay, well, obviously Chris should be okay then with Stevenson because you don't sign a guy to that type of long-term contract and that type of money without him being, the bell cow, so to speak. So the next thing here, Devonte Smith, Philadelphia. I think this guy is good. He's a good number two, right? AJ Brown's clearly the guy there, but considering Devonte Smith is, weighs as much as a sack of potatoes soaking wet, I don't think he can be a true number one. And obviously, for you, he's not being treated as your number one guy, but he definitely is going to be a guy that produces on that electric offense with Jalen Hurts. Cooper Kupp. Now, here's a guy that, let's face it, a few years back, we were talking fantasy player of the year for a couple of years running, I believe. Now, not so much. Cooper Kupp, has been injured, and the injury concerns are a problem. The Rams also have a quarterback that has an injury history as well. So again, there's risk there. But if this guy does stay healthy, and apparently in the offseason he's looked good, but it's just the offseason, that would be great news for you if he can get back to his old numbers. And that's the same for the next guy on your keeper, Nick Chubb, running back Browns. Apparently, the progress in his recovery is going well. But I mean, what kind of progress or recovery point would you be at with that type of injury? I love Nick Chubb, don't get me wrong. Obviously, being a Browns fan, but the reality is, I just don't see a human being coming back the same from that type of injury twice. I hope he does, but I think he'll still get some snaps. I just don't think you're going to see the same type of explosiveness as we once did. If we do, it wouldn't be until next year. It's not going to be this year. Nobody comes back from an injury like that and comes back explosive. I don't care who you are. And then Bobby Okereke is your IDP, and I think that's a great one. The Giants, looking at their offense, should be on the defensive field a lot, which should mean Bobby Okereke should get a fair amount of tackles, I would imagine, as New York likely gets their quarterback next year, is what I'm thinking. And probably going to be a guy like Carson Beck, right? But for now, I think New York wants to finish dead last. I really do. So, all right. So this is where things get interesting for you, Chris, and that's because you got a lot of picks, my friend. So obviously, with a experienced owner like yourself, if you don't make the playoffs, I would expect that you've rebuilt for the next year, and it's exactly what you've done here. So first off, it starts off with you picking second, right? So you finish second in consolation, right behind Too Good for a Name, where that first pick's going to be Susie, and I think you and her have probably the best draft pick scenarios out of the entire league. I'd have to look at everybody else. I think Lucas has a fair amount of picks too. Um, you pick second, but they don't pick again till 39th. And it's going to be interesting to see the likely first pick here. And me and Sean have our take on it, and it's vastly different. But I'll be interested to see what you got. Plus, some of these guys that are available now, who's to say that some of these people won't change the keeper on us? But for now, we'll go with what's there. You have 12 picks in the first 10 rounds with doubling up in round 6 and 7. You can basically create your whole linebacking core there, and would give you an advantage over the rest of the teams from an IDP perspective. The other thing I also love about your draft is you have the front loaded picks in the mid rounds as well. So what I mean by that, rounds 11 to 20. So you got the five. Well, I mean, if we look at it, you got 5, 6, 8 picks in the first 5 rounds in the rounds 11 to 20 stage. So it's pretty good to know that essentially you have 20 picks in the first 15 rounds, right? By the looks of it here. So, that should put you in a pretty big position to have a deep lineup. And essentially, your draft is over in round 23. I mean, you don't pick for another 117 picks after round 23. So you usually stick to the end, I think. But a guy could log out at that point if he wanted to in the draft, I think, because, essentially you're pretty much done at that point. I think you're primed for another run here, and primed for obviously to add to your career wins total and really just demonstrate to the rest of the league that you're one of the better owners here. Let's go into the likely first pick. This is the exciting part. So Sean's got Malik Neighbors, and he said there's no justification needed on why we would pick Malik Neighbors. My take on it is um, I wouldn't go Malik Neighbors. Here's why. I think you're in a position where you could win this year. And Malik Neighbors carries risk. Yeah, he could be a future keeper, no doubt about it. But I think you could go for sure things with King Henry or Debo Samuel available in the number 2 hole. Those guys we know will produce. And they've produced before, and they should produce again. King Henry in the new situation. Debo Samuel still technically the WR1 in San Fran, especially with AU having all sorts of problems. So Debo's under contract. So I think you go with an experienced guy at number 2. I think it's pretty clear who's going number 1. It would be foolish if Susie doesn't go Marvin Harrison Jr., because he will produce right away and he will be a great keeper. Malik Neighbors, I'm not feeling the same about. I know Kyler's not a great quarterback, but he's a heck of a lot better than Daniel Jones. Not only that, there's other pieces in Arizona to take a little bit of attention off Marvin Harrison, whereas with Malik Neighbors, who's the number 2 in New York? Like it's always been bums, right? I mean, Darius Slayton, there was that other guy, Hodges or whatever the hell his name was, that came in, had one good year, shit the bed last year, right? So I think you go with experience. I'd love to hear your comments, but I know we won't. I know you're going to probably likely guard your second pick until the draft. Let's look at potential storylines here now. So if things go well, Sean has you winning the LFC championship. He thinks very highly of you as an owner, and so do I. But I also think that to say you could win the championship might be a bit far-fetched right now. I just don't like the iffiness of Cooper Kupp and Nick Chubb. And even though you have all the picks, we've seen scenarios before where people have had all those picks and haven't been able to win. So I got you top 4 though if things do go well, because I think if Cup and Chubb come back to normal, you will be near the top for sure. If things go back bad, Sean has you going 5th, and I have you going in the consolation round if things go bad. I think for great owners like me, you, all of the original owners, for the most part, generally, if things go bad, it's generally just going to the consolation round unless we bought too much the year before. We all know how this works. I'd be surprised if an original owner ever does drop the tier two outside Robert, who, of course, is the only original owner that has dropped the tier two. So commentary here. So Sean's take, he says, excellent pick situation, excellent keepers, easily my pre-draft pick for champion. I have faith in his drafting abilities. Um, yeah, I think you have a track record of success. So I think with all those picks, you have to be considered a contender this year and a team to be feared. My only differing opinion from Sean there is I don't feel that the keepers are excellent. I think you have great keepers, but I'm just worried about Cup and Chubb. Devontae Smith really is only a true number two. And that's why, if I was your team and I'm picking second, if you could get a guy like King Henry or Debo at number two, I don't think you go rookie. But, you know, I also want you to lose because I'm competing against you. So, anyways, Chris, I hope you have a great year. I know you'll obviously put a lot of thought into that second pick. The second pick sometimes can be the most challenging, to be perfectly honest with you, just for the simple fact that, we all know Marvin Harrison's going to be that top pick, right? So then it's so much mystery at number two. And with those two really good veterans and King Henry and Debo still available, it'd be interesting if you go that route or if you go with the future rookie keeper. And at number two, it's hard not to go with that future rookie keeper as well, right? So I also get that dilemma. So it should be interesting. I can't wait. I think the draft starts at pick two, and that starts with you. So have a good year, Chris. Thank you for your commitment to the league, and go Lions.